Do you struggle to hold the same angle the whole time you're sharpening a knife? If so, stick around because in this video I'm going to show you 3 different techniques to help you to resolve this issue. Let's go! Welcome to Off the Stone Sharpening, guys. So I totally understand how frustrating it can be when you're sharpening a knife. You think you're holding the same angle the whole time. You're sharpening, and then you get done and you try to cut with the knife and it's just a nightmare. You're looking at, okay, like what did I do? You look at the knife edge and you see all these different angles on there. These 3 techniques are going to really help you to dial this in. So here is tip number 1. Alright, so how are you gripping your knife? Are you just grabbing it kind of like how you would use it to cut in the kitchen and then just trying to apply that to sharpening? That's not going to work. What I like to use is a 3-point system. And basically how it works is the first point of contact is where the handle of the knife is just going to sit on my middle finger, and it can rest on my other fingers here as well. That's my starting point. The next thing I'm going to focus on is my thumb and my index finger pinching the knife by the spine. This may change a little bit depending on what knife I'm sharpening, but basically I'm going to use the same 3-point system and then I'll just adjust it according to the knife. What this system does is gives me a very good level of control over the knife, and it is not a problem to hold this same angle the whole time when sharpening. Tip number 2. So what do I mean by locking your wrists? Well, I've got a good grip on the knife now, I found the angle, and what I want to make sure I do is keep my wrists in a locked position so that when I'm sharpening, I'm not moving them back and forth, up and down. Because if I do that, let's say I'm going across the stone and I'm kind of moving my wrists and maybe not even realizing it, look at my right wrist here if I'm like rolling it while I move. If you look, the knife angle is just constantly switching. You don't want to do that. When you lock your wrists, what you want to focus on is your arms moving forward and then moving back. And even if you're doing small strokes like this, you're just moving forward, moving back, moving forward, moving back. And you just do this in one fluid motion. Now, one thing you don't want to do is focus so much on locking your wrists that you get super tense about it. So if you're super rigid about it and you're almost like a robot sharpening, what you're going to end up doing is probably fatiguing. You're going to be straining your muscles to hold that angle, and you're going to be so worried about it that you're probably going to mess it up anyway. So what you want to do is make sure you just focus on being very fluid, very relaxed. Sharpening should be a relaxing, comfortable thing to do. So lock your wrists, but just make sure you're focusing on a nice, fluid, comfortable position. I can see this last point being overlooked because it's not as obvious as the first 2 points, but it is just as important. And here is tip number 3. What do I mean by your posture? Well, basically, how close or how far are you away from the stone? So in this position, if I'm trying to sharpen this knife, to be completely honest, it's not overly comfortable right now because I'm a little bit too close to the stone. And what I mean by that's my height. Honestly, to be in a more comfortable position, it'd be something like this. So how I could troubleshoot this is I would either get something to elevate the stone or a chair that lets me sit a little bit higher. If you're in a position where you're a little bit too close to the stone, you may fatigue very quickly because your shoulder's going to feel scrunched and your arms are going to feel like you don't have enough range of motion. So you definitely don't want that. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you don't want to be so high away from the stone because what's going to happen is you're not going to have a level of control over the knife. Your arms are going to be so extended that you're not going to be able to maintain that angle that well. So find the happy medium point where it just feels extremely comfortable. You don't feel scrunched and you don't feel overextended. Once you find that point, you'll know because it'll be the most comfortable and it'll help you to stay the most consistent. Well, guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. I really hope this helps you. And thank you all for all your support. I appreciate you liking my videos. Thank you for commenting on them. Thank you for subscribing if you're new to the channel. And we'll see you in the next video.